What's the fastest you've seen a couple go from married to divorced, and what caused it? My own marriage in 2004. Kissed my wife goodbye for a 3-month deployment to Pakistan in March. I never saw her again. After 2 months of being there, she told me she wanted to leave me. At the time, there was a loophole in divorce law. One website was exploding. QuickSimpleDivorce.com. Lawyers in Guam were allowed to process uncontested divorces pretty quickly. Paid $800 and sent her the paperwork. We were living in Germany at the time and she signed and left for the US before I got home. The divorce was finalized in August of 2004. What caused it? Dunno really. Honestly, she was unhappy prior to my departure. We had only been married a couple years. We kinda rushed to get married in 2002 when I got orders to Germany. Young couple in their late 20s. Bride was the daughter of a friend. Daughter never learned to budget, save, spend wisely, pay bills on time, prioritize. They both worked full-time at good jobs in San Francisco and lived in Pacific Heights in a purchased condo that was quite nice. She took them both into a ton of debt. Had to have the very latest of everything that was material in nature, clothing, furniture, etc. She would put $1,000 on their credit card in an hour on absolutely nothing. She nagged her husband from the moment he walked in the door from work, even in front of company. It lasted 2 years. He couldn't get away fast enough. Her wedding photos were hilarious. No smiles. 2 weeks. Kind of a long story. My sister was married to a real jackass. She stayed too long and the divorce has been bitter. The ex-husband is convinced my sister has a secret trust fund she is living off of, and he wants half. There is no such trust fund. I mean, in what hopefully will be many years when my dad dies, there may be money from his trust, but he's very much alive, so he's not entitled to that. So my sister hooked up with another guy, who apparently is friends with the ex. The ex told him about the trust fund and somehow convinced my gullible sister to marry him, in the hopes that he would be more successful in getting the trust fund, the one that doesn't exist. This new husband, within days of marrying my sister, brought his ex-girlfriend, baby mama who was supposedly in an abusive relationship, and his child to stay with them. Very shortly after, it was learned that new hubby has been with baby mama the entire duration of the relationship and the guy only went out with her because he thought she was a trust fund kid. So within a couple of weeks after the nuptials they were at each other's throats, and he had thrown out and actually arrested and basically kept all her belongings. He filed a restraining order against, so she couldn't come to the house. I'm not saying my sister deserved this, but she does have a habit of stretching the truth. These guys didn't get the idea there was a trust fund from their asses. This marriage only basically lasted 2 weeks. A friend of mine worked for her husband's brother. It's how they met. Once they got married, her boss stopped paying her because she was family now, and you don't have to pay family. So she quit and found another job immediately without consulting her husband, and in a fury her husband changed all the locks while she was asleep in the back bedroom and put deadbolts on the outside of the door so she could only leave their house if he let her out, and took her cell phone. They didn't have a landline. It took her about 2 hours to get a hold of us online. Dumbest didn't think she could contact people with a laptop, so we called the police who busted down the door and got her out. Husband went to prison, her divorce went through real quick, and now, 5 years later, she lives on the coast and got engaged again to a very sweet guy who knows we're all watching like hawks. My boyfriend's cousin. She's 21 dating a 19-year-old who looks 12 and is tiny. She's a very large woman. She's extremely physically abusive. I watched her pick this man up and lock him in the trunk of a car by sitting on top of it to induce a panic attack and win their argument at work. He always has bruises and black eyes. He proposes to her after a few months of dating. They get married. He annuls the marriage and leaves in secret the next day. Goes into hiding for 6 months. She posts lots of woe is me sappy breakup stuff. Somehow out of nowhere he's just back. They remarry at the courthouse, and now she's saying she's pregnant, but not telling her family. Her husband looks miserable, and according to the grapevine doesn't work anymore, and is confined to the apartment they share. Whether that's by choice or not is up for debate. The poor guy looks like a withered husk of himself, and he's only 19. One of my classmates in HS married her boyfriend before graduating college. She was one of those girls that had her entire life planned, so we were a little surprised that she didn't wait to graduate, but he was just about perfect, so it made sense. He was intelligent, motivated, sweet, etc. He would come over to her house on weekends and mow her grass, do little repair jobs, take out the trash. Perfect courtship, beautiful proposal, a wedding that everyone talked about for weeks. 6 months later we go out for a girls' night and we beg for details on her wedded bliss, seeing as she's the first one married, and she breaks down. He had just stopped. Everything he had done before marriage just disappeared. It was like he was done adulting and reverted back to childhood. Wouldn't eat anything but spaghetti and chicken nuggets, literally. Started skipping class, cut his hours at work to less than half. Didn't do any housework, any yard work, would spend the entire night up with his best friend playing video games, to the point the friend complained. Drama intensified, and they were divorced before they hit their 1-year anniversary. Some friends, who had been dating for a few months, got married in Las Vegas as sort of a drunken joke. The girl found out she would lose a lot of her trust fund because of being married. A gaggle of 4 lawyers were flown in and got a very quick retroactive annulment. Marriage lasted 4 days, except legally it was declared to have never existed at all. They dated for 3 more years then broke up. One of my friends from college filed for divorce 10 months after her wedding. They were never really a good match and everyone could see it. Honestly, I think she just wanted to have a wedding and be a princess for a day. Once she realized she actually had to keep the guy, she started having second thoughts. A relative of mine had a marriage last less than 3 weeks. They had been together for a couple years and even went to premarital counseling at their church for a few months to get ready. Their wedding was super lavish, and it was clear a lot of prep and money went into it. At their wedding they announced they were expecting their first child. Everything seemed great. Unfortunately the whole thing blew up when the wife discovered he had been cheating on her for almost their entire relationship with multiple women. She found this out while in a foreign country on their honeymoon, 4 months pregnant. I know from her mom that she had complications in her pregnancy that they attribute to the stress of all of this. My neighbor got married at 19 and divorced when she was 20. Her parents got divorced while she was dating the guy and she moved in with him a couple months into the relationship. Together less than a year before they got married. Super young couple together for such a short time almost never works out. She didn't learn her lesson though, because she got engaged to someone else barely a year later. They called it off and broke up before getting married though. Sadly that's the happy story of the family, because her younger sister got pregnant at 16 to a guy in his 30s, and then a couple years later got pregnant by him again and married him. He's currently in prison for statutory rape of a 13-year-old. Happened while they were together, but they are still married with 2 children, and she defends him on Facebook all the time. Girl I went to HS with has 4 kids from her first marriage. They divorced when they were in their early 40s. She decides she wants to get married again. She wants a religious family man and is convinced Nigeria is the route to go. She starts chatting up Nigerian guys on Facebook. Goes over there, marries a guy she just met via her Facebook husband search. After a few months of her sending money to him after she's home, she's unable to 1 month because she has 4 kids to worry about. He freaks out and they wind up getting it annulled. But wait, there's more. A year later, she's on her way to Nigeria again because she's found another guy to marry. This time she goes over there once to visit, comes home, then basically is, "I'm not giving you money until we marry." She goes back over again within 6 months to marry him. A month after getting home she finds out she's pregnant. All is well. Eventually she's unable to send money because 4 kids with twins on the way and that comes first. He gets upset and they wind up divorced. She later finds out he'd been chatting up other women around the world and getting money from them and was only going to use her for a green card to get to the States. I honestly don't feel bad for her. I feel bad for her 6 kids to have to witness their mom make stupid decisions. No idea how the hell she afforded all those plane tickets. She's given up on Nigeria now. Jamaica is on her sights now. So, I'm pretty sure before long, we'll see a shotgun wedding in Jamaica. My friend married this woman after years of dating. They were together about 6 months. Then on their first Christmas, he got her a present, and she got him nothing. Later that night she left their house, and didn't come back until the next morning. Apparently she had made an account on some dating site on Christmas, met a guy, and slept with him that night. She came clean the next day, but that was the end of their 6-month marriage. It is very tragic, but dad was driving 2 of his boys home from a camping trip, and they got into an accident and the car went into the lake. Dad was able to rescue the oldest boy, but he could not get the youngest out of his car seat in time. They were able to get the little one breathing, but he had no brain activity, and they had to pull the plug. The marriage ended pretty much immediately.